All right. Well, this is a day where I kind of get to shine because I love this economic stuff, and I hope you don't mind getting too much into the weeds and the sort of nerdy financial economics talk here. I know it's not real sexy. I know it's not real, like, emotionally heart-pulling, but this is the kind of stuff that it may not get as much interest in the headlines, but this affects you. This affects you more than the fight in Bedford or, God forbid, the stabbing in Frisco. As tragic as that is, and as much as that pulls at your heartstring as a parent, I mean, those are some brutal stories that just kind of ruin your whole day. They're not going to affect your life like the tariffs. And the tariffs, if this is this could go one of two ways. Now that they're set, now that they've actually happened, one of the possibilities in the Choose Your Own Adventure book is already gone. The whole idea that, well, the tariffs are never going to be implemented because these countries are going to capitulate, or Trump's going to capitulate, or they'll come to the middle and make some sort of compromise in a new regime. But we're past that now. So now we are in the position of, look, tariffs are restrictions on free trade. Tariffs do put up roadblocks and hurdles to international trade. Will it be a net positive or a net negative for America? Well, in the immediate short term, if you look at your 401k today, didn't do too well, did it? However, that's not how you measure these things. You don't measure the Dallas Cowboys based on the first game of the season. You also have a similar metaphor to sports where you sort of have a rebuilding year. Like, if there is going to be a recession, is there a recession because a bunch of government workers lost their jobs? And in this process, as they transition from being people who suck away resources from the private sector, they will be people who contribute resources to the private sector. So after this mini recession, if we even have one, it might just be 1 quarter of negative GDP growth, if any. If we're stronger on the other end of this than we otherwise would have been, it's a net positive. So it's impossible. Anybody who tells you already that these are a success or a failure, they're probably partisan hacks. No one knows yet. We all have our theories, and you better couch it as a theory. Like, I think, I expect, I think perhaps, or maybe. Put a bunch of qualifiers in there when you talk about this, because you don't, and I'm not saying you, I'm talking more to the people on TV and on other radio stations. You don't know, but let's go ahead and go ahead and set the narrative in a more honest way than it's being presented on the TV. So we went to Donald Trump's announcement yesterday live on the James Show when he came out on the White House lawn and was talking about Liberation Day. Well, let me pull a little chunk of that, because I think overall, this is the right idea. This is the right thing to do. I don't know if I would do it exactly the same. I don't even know all the nuances and ins and outs of what he's doing. I do know that if his end goal is a more free and fair trade system, then I'm all for it. If he wants other countries to get their tariffs down as low as possible in exchange for us getting our tariffs back down as low as possible, that's kind of the ideal scenario. But that's not one of the scenarios we have right now. No one's offering to take away their protectionist tariffs or their special treatment. They're getting some privileges right now. And so if that's the philosophical goal that he's aiming for and sticks to, and that's not just something he's saying in the wind, then I think this is a brilliant move. We're all going to be happier for it in a year from now. But there's also some little nuance in here that I do have issues with. Let me pull one little clip here from yesterday. And this is something I hear from both Team Red and Team Blue. So this isn't really a political issue. This is an economics issue. Let's talk about NAFTA and free trade. Did NAFTA help or hurt more?
But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost while racking up trade deficits of $19 trillion. That was the worst trade deal ever made. As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets than the Americans own of their own foreign assets or other foreign assets. The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. We have a tremendous problem. We have to go to foreign countries to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics. We used to dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries.
Okay, so he's not wrong in the fact that we did lose a lot of manufacturing. We did lose a lot of that base, the factories. They went overseas to other countries. But I'm not so sure we're worse off because of it. I want to give you one of the great examples here because government didn't touch this. They kind of messed up the education system and the healthcare system and pharmaceuticals and things like that. But I want you to go back and just remember the TV you had when you were a kid. It absolutely sucked, didn't it? Wasn't it the worst? If you don't remember or if you're too young, this is an ad for a Zenith TV in 1983. And it's a pop-up, 45-inch pop-up. Yes, it's a cabinet, and you hit a button, and then it zooms up because it's so wide, and it takes up so much room that it would dominate the living room without being a cabinet. But listen to this. Listen to this terrible TV they're bragging about.
I want a giant screen TV.
But I didn't want a giant screen taken into my living room.
Look what Zenith built.
By remote control, the screen rises from the fine furniture cabinet. Zenith presents Space Screen 45, more than 3 times the area of a 25-inch screen,
45?
yet the picture is sharper than ever before in home projection TV. And only Zenith has the screen that disappeared.
So I get my living room back.
New Space Screen 45. Only Zenith has it.
Okay, so, yeah, that's terrible TV, terrible picture. It's only 45 inches. It was $3,000 back then in 1983. That would be $9,000 in today's money. Are you better off next time you go get a TV? Can you go get a 60-inch TV for like $212 and it weighs like 10 pounds and doesn't take up your entire living room? In fact, you can hang it like a painting on your wall. So, not all foreign trade has been bad. The key is balance. Raven Harrison's back on. Hey, Raven, welcome back to the show.
Hey, James. Good to be here.
So it's post-Liberation Day. Am I supposed to be scared that the economy is about to collapse and it's going to be Sodom and Gomorrah and cats and dogs living together? Because the TV seems to be really concerned about this.
Well, this is what they're always concerned about, because saying everything's going to be okay doesn't help your ratings go up and it doesn't help you sell papers back in the day. Only saying that it's going to be an imminent catastrophe that you have to send a lot of money to is the only thing that'll fix it.
Well, it doesn't work anymore. Like, aren't you the people who told me the Inflation Reduction Act would reduce inflation? Or even if you go back in the Obama stimulus plan, we were told we have to pass this so inflation doesn't get, unemployment doesn't get up to 10%. And it got past 10% after we passed it. I mean, they're wrong about all these other economic predictions. Why does anyone listen to them now?
Well, that's where I need to stop you. They're not wrong about everything, James. They're lying. There's a difference. So they're not wrong. They're lying. And that's what we have to remember. And that's all you're seeing right now across the board is the Democrats losing their mind because they're getting caught in the same stuff that was fine when Biden was doing it. And that's what we're looking at. But yes, this is just a typical word salad is we got to get billionaires out. And then we say, okay, well, what about Soros and Gates? Okay, and Reid Hoffman. Oh, well, but that's different. P.S. We hate Trump.
Well, all these other billionaires, Zuckerberg, Bezos, and Elon Musk, when they were on Team Blue, got zero complaints from these people. And just so for new people who don't keep up with this as much as myself and Raven, this is what she was talking about when Biden did tariffs and his Treasury Secretary went to the media. She was saying, "Oh, this would be great. There's nothing wrong with high tariffs."
As you have seen, there have been some experts, some groups, the National Retail Federation among them, who've expressed concerns that it will be U.S. consumers who eventually end up paying for these tariffs. As you know, polling shows that rising prices are voters' biggest concern right now. So I'd ask you to speak directly to them. Will American consumers bear the cost of these tariffs?
I don't believe that American consumers will see any meaningful increase in the prices that they face.
Okay, but now what happens with tariffs? Oh, it's the battle scene for Braveheart out there, Raven. I don't buy it.
No, they don't either. I mean, and that's what this is. This is basically them trying to justify for 4 years they let Biden run shot, over our economy, over our finances, over our border, and they were crickets and silence. And now that we're finding out corruption, they are absolutely losing it. as far as the tariffs, they had no problem. Do you know we have as high as 270% tariff from things coming from Canada? So they're not outraged about that. But when we say, hey, we're going to reciprocate and start balancing the trade, then all of a sudden Trump's a bully. So this is the usual cast of characters and the usual obstructionists who, once again, are just enjoying the fact that we haven't worked really hard to get them out.
Well, we know that tariffs have been used as protectionist tools for selected connected industries, and it's a favor that lobbyists can buy and politicians can sell. So they don't really want to get rid of selective tariffs like that. They don't want a free and fair trade across the board because that they lose something to sell to lobbyists. And then at the same time, they are picking and choosing winners and losers here in Texas because they are considering $2.5 billion to subsidize Hollywood in Texas. And is playing favorites good or not?
Well, it's not. But see, this is again, when people want to know why things aren't happening in their government, why things aren't moving forward, this is why. Because this is the word salad, deception shell game that politicians like to play in front of the cameras, and behind the scenes they're making deals like this. But I think the bigger thing in Texas is you guys got to fix. You got 400 acres allocated for Sharia City in the middle of Texas. Who gets permits for this and funding and zoning and all these things? And we get a letter every now and then from Abbott saying, yeah, it's likely not going to happen. What do you mean it's likely not going to happen? How did this even get started? This is what we have to start telling our people is you've got to stay on these politicians because this is what happens.
Yeah, of all the places, Collin County. Let's not let that fly. All right, here's another touchy subject I'm going to bring up with you, Raven. There's 2 congresswomen that are asking for remote voting privileges because they just had a baby and they've got to take care of their baby and they've got to breastfeed and it's too inconvenient. And, I'm kind of split internally on this. I'm sympathetic to moms and I want to encourage, the family and the family unit and whatnot. But no one else gets to vote remotely or should be voting remotely. No one should be voting remotely, period. In fact, we had mothers through the entirety of the American experience without remote voting for maternity leave. So why now? And then on top of that, do you want to be treated equal or do you want special privileges? So, this is a tough one. Where do you stand?
Well, I don't think it really is that tough. And I appreciate the question, James, because I am a mother who had to juggle. And I think it's absolutely absurd. It was only when I was blasting this that I found that they have subsidized health care and daycare for congresswomen. I didn't know that there's a daycare a few blocks from the Capitol that is completely free to millionaires. So this is absolutely absurd. If you want to be treated equally, I mean, I personally like the special treatment of being a woman, but let's play the game. But if you want to be equal, you've got to show up and do your job. And let's just mention that, one congresswoman who said this, her daughter or her child is almost 3. And the one who did this is at 3 or 4 months old. Regular moms who don't have access to this kind of daycare have been forced to figure this out and juggle. But as it relates to Congress, when you don't even work you work 134 days a year, show up and vote. Either that or resign your seat, stay home with your baby. And I'm speaking as a mother. I took my time to be home when I needed to be home. And now I am thankfully out of childbearing years and I'm ready to do the job. But I disagree with women who like to use that as a crutch, and they've opened the door for because men can use this too. So now they have opened the door and they delayed what people really wanted, which was the SAVE Act and reining in these judges. So absolutely disgusted by what happened, and her using her baby as a prop was sickening. There are mothers out there with 4 kids, single, who are making it work, who don't get any kind of break to show up from work. Show up to work. Do your job.
Amen. Wow. Raven Harrison blowing it out of the water. Where do they find you online, Raven?
They can find me at Raven Harrison, FORCongress.com. Get out and donate. Patriots, help me stop this crap.
Look her up on YouTube, too. She's got a lot of great videos there. We have a unique situation here in Congress where we have one member of the congressional delegation that's a Republican who's also a new mom, and a member of the Democrat delegation that's also a new mom, and they have both teamed together, and they're asking for remote voting. Now, I say they're asking for remote voting. They're asking to continue the remote voting, which wasn't a part of American history all the way up until COVID. which was the poorest, lamest excuse to relax the rules that are just very clearly set in stone for obvious common sense reasons. But they want to extend that. Hey, well, we've proven that we can tolerate proxy voting, so why can't I do this? All new moms should have this privilege. Well, if you think I'm just, pulling this out of the air, let me let you hear the. This is the Democrat representative, Brittany Peterson, and this is her making her case that Congress should have proxy votes for maternity leave.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to this rule, which restricts moms and dads from doing their jobs after welcoming a new child. Like so many of our colleagues, it's one of my greatest honors to be a mom. I have 2 little boys, a son named Davis, who's 5, and my little guy here, Sam, who's now 9 weeks old. It's also one of my greatest honors to have been elected by my constituents to represent them in Congress. And I can tell you, after being a mom here and being only the 13th member to have ever given birth while serving in Congress,
that's
voting
a lot.
member, I can tell you we have a long ways to go to make this place.
Being only the 13th member that's had a baby while serving in Congress. So yeah, that's a few. That's a baker's dozen now. None of the other ones needed proxy voting before it, but you all of a sudden it's a human right now. Anyway, I'm just
accessible for young families like mine. When I was pregnant, I couldn't fly towards the end of my due date because it was unsafe for Sam.
Maybe you should have dropped out of the race. Maybe you shouldn't have run for Congress if it's going to be a deal breaker. But how'd the other 12 people do it before you? And people, the comments under this are saying, well, it should be for men and women. Men should have maternity leave so they can help the wife take care of the kids when the kid's a baby. Bro, we've been around for almost 250 years now. We've been having babies that entire time. No one thought we needed paternity leave. What are you, a public school teacher now? Do your job. Taking off every second you can get. Janet and Rockwall, what do you think about maternity leave for Congress?
I don't want an elected president to take maternity leave. I voted for them to be president. I expect them to be there unless they're deathly ill. So if that part of the executive branch I don't want taking maternity leave, then the other 2 executive branches I don't want taking maternity leave. They're government. They knew what they signed up for. So do your job. You
know what? I haven't heard anyone else make that comparison. We wouldn't tolerate that for President of the United States. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to be indisposed every 4 hours so I can feed. It does fit in with one of the general tenors of criticism here is that, well, if you're unable to do your job, if you're unable to do your duties, then you should probably resign.
Exactly.
Well, I love it, Janet. And somehow it means more coming from a woman than a man. It shouldn't, but it does. Daniel and Hurst, you're on WBAP. What do you think about maternity leave for Congress?
Well, the more I think about it, the more things I think of. But if I remember, it's been a while since we've had small children, but my wife used to pump. I guess they still do that.
Yeah. Well, I just had 4 kids, and my
daycare could take care of feeding them at any time.
Yeah. She doesn't have to breastfeed on the floor of Congress. They do have pumping. They do have a system by which you could still accomplish that. Is it convenient? No. Is it ideal? No. But you're going to have to make the choice. Do you want to have a baby, or do you want to be a congresswoman? And if you're going to be a congresswoman and have a baby, that's on you to deal with the inconveniences that come along with it, right?
Well, yeah. The rules. She knew the rules going in. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Well, who's in favor of this then? Do we have it? Thank you very much, Daniel. Anyone in favor of maternity leave for Congresswomen? Let me try Hayden. Hayden in Arlington, do you agree or disagree about maternity leave for Congress?
Totally disagree, man. I'm either somebody should fill their seat during their time that they're on leave, or just entirely give up your seat. Because, 134 days a year, it's not a lot for you to go to work. And if I'm able to do it, I've got 4. If I've been able to do it this whole time, if my wife can do it, if one of us can be home, it's not like there's not 2 parents. So there's a way around it.
So you mean if she's not going to be there, I remember, who was that? Some president, I think it was George W. Bush. The first time I figured out that there was like the swap, like the tag team method for the Oval Office, George W. Bush had to have a colonoscopy, and in order to do that, he's going to like have a polyp removed. So they had to put him under anesthesia. And so since he was going to be incapacitated, like not just asleep, but unable to be woken up, they actually had to swear in Dick Cheney for like 19 hours or something until George W. Bush was recovered. And so, maybe they could get a tag team, but...
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad. If we could have like the alternate or the understudy for Brittany Peterson, so we have to have understudy congressman now.
Yeah, tag in the B team.
Maybe the person could be appointed by the governor of the state or something. But look, that's not a hard yes or a hard no. I like the fact that you're trying to come up with the workaround there, Hayden. Good job.
I'm working on it. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go to Ellen in Cedar Hill. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Ellen?
I think it's ridiculous that she's not being allowed to vote remotely. Why you can't put them on a Zoom call? It's you're saying 243 years. Well, there used to be no men in Congress.
You mean no women?
How is this? Sorry, apologize. No women.
That's all right.
It's discrimination. I mean, when you can't tell them to time their babies around when Congress isn't in session. That's ludicrous.
No, but you can't tell them to time their congressional elections around not having babies. If she knew she was going to have a baby, this is a 9-week-old baby. She knew she was pregnant. She didn't step down. She continued to run, and she ran telling her constituents that she was going to go to Washington and do the job that they voted for. And now it sounds like she's trying to change the rules.
No, I disagree. She's not. And you said there's another one. There's 2 of them that are pregnant. What is the other woman think?
Well, they're not pregnant. They've already had their kids. But one of them's Anna Paulina Luna from Florida, who's not just a Republican. She's a staunch MAGA, just spraying red all over the place Republican.
Yeah, I know who she is, yeah.
Yeah, and then Brittany Peterson is the Democrat who has the 9-week-old baby, who sounded kind of cute on the floor of the House. But you at least admit, though, that they're not asking for equal treatment. They're asking for special privileges. Do you concede that?
Well, yeah, men, I don't consider it a special privilege.
Why not?
Men can't have babies.
Right, which is why we don't get the special privilege, which is why all men will have to vote in person at all times. But the whole point that people oppose proxy voting and want people to vote in person, it goes back through time immemorial. First thing, if you want to get business done in any of these business settings, whether it's Congress or your church budget session, you have to have a quorum. You have to have a set number of people who are present in the room to do it. And, we're seeing them deal with that in Austin right now. Well, how do you have a quorum if no one's allowed to forced to show up? Or how do you know
they can't be on like a Zoom call so your face is there, that it's them? I mean, it's not forever, it's for a set period of time.
So if I go to Congress, can I vote through Zoom calls?
I understand your point.
Yeah, I know. And here's the fun part. Not one of us is right and not one of us is wrong. This is a subjective call, Ellen. So I'm just glad you called in when you disagree, because I feel like people don't want to call in when they disagree because they're kind of embarrassed. Don't. I'll be nice.
Well, I was getting annoyed that everyone that was calling in was saying they didn't want them to have special privileges.
I feel that. I get annoyed when everyone agrees too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff. You made your case well, Ellen. Thank you.
My opinion as a mother and a grandmother, I think they should be allowed, but we'll see.
Gotcha. Thanks for listening, Ellen. Angel in Dallas, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, I'm a liberal and a mother, and I agree with you.
It happens sometimes. You don't have to wash your eyes out with soap or anything. It happens.
I don't understand 2 things about what they're saying. Now, number one, they are including men in case the men need to help their wives who've just had babies. God,
that's even dumber, though.
Or something.
Yeah, okay.
So but the thing I don't understand is twofold. The first thing I don't understand is they know ahead of time when votes are going to be happening. So they should be able to make allowances for someone to watch the child while they're doing what they're doing. The other thing I don't understand is if they're allowed to do it, why do they keep saying that they can't afford for regular people to be able to do the same thing or to have maternity leave as they do? I don't get that.
Oh, okay. I get the juxtaposition there, comparing him to the working class and not to other congressmen.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a legit complaint, but that's definitely coming from a Team Blue point of view. I think that's a good excuse on why no one should have guaranteed maternity leave. If your employer wants to be generous enough to do that, of course he should do it. It'd probably be good for morale and good for recruiting and good for employee retention, but it shouldn't be mandated by law or regulation. I lost you on that one, didn't I?
I'll disagree with you on that one, but I think it should be across the board in all sectors. I don't think that Congress people should be put on a higher pedestal and be allowed things that the rest of us don't get.
All right, you're a female liberal woman, mom, but you're listening to my show. Do you listen on a regular basis, or did you just accidentally bump into me today?
I know you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so
you and I know each other. I have a different name. I changed my name after my last divorce. This is the Go-To Negro, Leslie.
Oh, this is okay. Well, I was just wondering how many, because the statistics are really small, and she's actually black. So black, female, mom, liberal. They're out there. I tell you, sometimes when I couch these things, I know not everyone agrees with me. That's why some people out there listen, and you wouldn't suspect it. Who's next? Jody in Fort Worth. What do you think about congressional maternity leave?
It should not be allowed. I've had 4 babies. I've voted. I've done my jobs. If you choose to be a congressperson, a senator, any office, and you choose to have a baby, you make it work out. I would be honored to be pregnant and to be a congressman. Period.
Agreed. Some jobs will work with you. Some jobs you just can't work with. Who was that? Like, that was the first big WNBA star back in the day. Wasn't it like Cheryl Swoops, who wasn't she from Texas Tech? It's fuzzy because I'm not really up on my WNBA legacy history here. But if I remember correctly, she was like the first pick in the draft, and she was going to be she was like Caitlin Clark was, but 20-something years ago. And she ended up getting pregnant before the season started and couldn't play or something, and it totally interrupted her career. And yeah, that never happened in the NBA. It's the damnedest thing. Who would have thought? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.